Hi. It has been a while. How have you been? It's been like 2 years since I've posted a video on this channel, I think. And honestly, when I was posting content to this channel before, I just did not really have like a solid direction for where I wanted the channel to go and what types of content I wanted to make. Why am I not in focus? I wanted to film in my Papasan chair, which I probably will do next time, but I like this. I like having this mic here. I can do some ASMR if you want. Maybe another time. I am 27 until March 27th, which is next Wednesday. So I'm less than a week away from my 28th birthday. Yay! 27 has been nuts. I'll just say that. And I also want to say that no matter what age you are, you can start over. You don't have to wait until your next birthday to start over. You can start over right now. You could start over tomorrow. All it takes is some getting clear on who you are now and who you want to be, or like your mindset, and being honest with yourself about what that is, and then coming up with actionable goals and things. But I'll talk more about that in another video. This video is about how, yes, I am starting over at 27. I would love to talk about the things that I learned in chapter 27 of my life, and then where I want to change things in chapter 28 and the things that I've been looking into to begin doing that. I am very much, I'm always on a journey. Everybody is always on a journey, but I'm very much at the beginning of a new chapter. And so there's going to be a lot of learning and a lot of like change and a lot of like a discipline that is going to need to happen. And so I'm really excited to share all of that with you guys, and then also share just how it's going and some tips and tricks, and to learn with you all along the way. The bangs are not banging right now. Like I said, sorry if I'm looking over at the thing, it's because I really want to see if I'm even able to be viewed. Sorry, that was a weird way of saying like if I'm in focus or not, able to be viewed. Yes, I would love for you all to be able to view me on your screen of choice. Yeah, you can start over whenever you want, and you can become whoever you want. Something that I think a lot of people forget is that our brains are completely like malleable, in the sense that, you know, your mindset really does truly create your reality. It creates the way that you view yourself, and your self-concept does create your reality, because it allows you or prevents you from believing that certain things are true about your life. And I think it's really easy, especially if we're people who have been through a lot in the past, to like over-identify with that and just expect things to happen a certain way because of the way things happened in the past. And while it is important to always consider like lessons of the past that you've learned, it's not a good idea to assume that everything in the future that resembles what things that happened in the past are going to go the exact same way. You have to learn how to trust your ability to overcome things. And that's where like small wins and making small changes can really help. And I'm getting ahead of myself. That's something that I'll get into. But I just wanted to say that, again, I'm super big on personal development and believing that change is possible and people can heal themselves. And it all just starts with intention and like being willing to look at yourself and work through things. You can literally become whoever you want to be. These are the things that I've learned in year 27. Gosh, so many things. A lot of it centered around my relationships, though. That was a huge theme in 2027, the year of 27, in my 27th year. My 27th year. And not even just like romantic relationships, but definitely friendships and just like just relationships in general. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned about myself. I learned about other people. I'm still learning, and I'm still like peeling back the layers. I started out really frustrated in my 27th year because I just felt like I didn't feel like how I'm supposed to around people who are like my friends and stuff. I struggle a lot with intimacy and being hyper independent and viewing any sort of like dependency as like a weakness, but it's subconscious. It's not like I'm walking around being like, oh, I'm not gonna tell you that because I think that's weak. Like, it's just a habit. It is like a program that's been downloaded. It's my default mechanism. And the good thing is like those things can change, but they require you to be so aware of what your default mechanism is that you can catch it before it happens, and you start to like do that. And that is hard in and of itself because it requires you to observe your thoughts rather than just like be them. And you know, we are not our thoughts, we are the observer of our thoughts. And in order to do that, you have to be very present, and you have to be able to recognize like when you're being controlled by your emotions and be willing to kind of like self-regulate. And that's what I'm going through. I learned a lot about attachment styles. I've learned that I am an avoidant when it comes to friendships, and in some of my, the only romantic relationship I had in the year of 27, I was kind of showing up anxious because the other person is avoidant. And so I'm kind of like experiencing both, but I'm really working on being aware of that and like healing those things. I had, you know, in my romantic relationships kind of like fixer tendencies, wanting to just like throw all these resources at this person because I wanted to help them so bad so that they could experience love. I mean, I think it definitely was like a very controlling dynamic on my end, at least. I've, you know, realized you can't force people into healing. Like, you can give people what they need. You can lead the horse to water. You can't make it drink. You know, I was even like putting the water in my hands and holding it up for them to drink, and you can't force that. So yeah, I just learned how to be like, okay, look, like people gonna do what people gonna do. Like, if somebody really wants to grow and heal and figure themselves out, they'll do that in the same way that I've been trying to do that. I have been seeking out so much information about the patterns that I've noticed within myself. YouTube is a treasure trove. If you can't make it to therapy, YouTube has therapists who literally talk about these things, and sometimes I'm like, would a therapist that I could find even be as good as this person that's giving away this information for free? Like, it's just, if people want to change and like be better, they will seek that out on their own, and it's nobody's job to try to like force that upon them. I also have learned that conflict is an opportunity to understand somebody better. It's an opportunity to learn more about yourself, because there are parts about ourselves that we will never understand, and we can only gather information about those parts of ourselves from other people, because we can't experience ourselves the way other people can. And so just learning not to take it personally when people have feedback. And that doesn't mean like don't care. It just means don't let the ego response of like, oh, that person's wrong, I know myself better, that like knee-jerk reaction that a lot of people have, don't let that come between you and your friend who probably is just genuinely trying to tell you things because they care about you. It's like the idea of like radical candor, being so honest with someone because you care about them and you want your connection to grow. It's not always fun to hear about yourself, especially if it's something that you perceive to be negative, but it is so important to personal growth. I think there's like a healthy amount of like shame that you can feel in those instances, but it should never be something where like you're like overly shameful about that stuff, because then it becomes a situation where you can't ever really receive constructive criticism from people that care about you, because you'll like beat yourself up over it. That's another thing that I looked into as well, from some therapists that were talking about like CPTSD and like childhood trauma and stuff. And so yeah, now I just really try to trust that if I do get any form of criticism, it comes with like the best intentions. I will still, it just really depends on who it is and the relationship that we have. And if my intuition is telling me that they're telling me because they care about me and they want me to be better in both of our lives and they want to grow and connect, or is it just like they're projecting something onto me? And so that kind of ties into a lot of like friendships that I've kind of had to let go this year, and they weren't even really friendships. It was more of like, I've known this person for so long that like we're just always gonna be friends, and I just don't think like that was serving either of us. Also, I had like a lot of practice asserting my boundaries with all sorts of relationships this year. I was very fortunate to be in sort of like a romantic relationship with somebody who was very receptive to the constructive criticism that I would give them, and that gave me like all the empowerment in the world to be able to carry that on into my other relationships. So I'm so grateful to them for that. But in one of my friendships, I literally, like, this person was being very petty toward me and very like passive aggressive, and that's just not conducive to any sort of growth or change, that is an indicator that that person lets their emotions control them and says things in the moment because they think it's going to make them feel better. It's kind of like a dig, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have any room in my life for people who think it's okay to speak to me with disrespect because they were feeling crappy in that moment. And so I had brought it up to that person's attention because this was not the first time that they had treated me like that and said things to me like that. And it was really hard for them to take accountability, and they were making excuses like, oh, well, you made me feel this way, I said that because of this. And it's like, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter, like, that's not what I want to hear. That's not the correct response. It is, you know, taking accountability. I'm really sorry I made you feel that way. I see how me being passive aggressive could make you feel this way. And like, you know, like, that is kind of what I was looking for. But instead they kind of flipped it around on me, and then they told me, I just think you take me too seriously, or you take me too personally, or you take things personally or something. And like, I'm sorry, that is not the thing you say when somebody comes to you and says, hey, you made me feel bad because of this. So it just became very apparent to me that this person is not teachable. They are not, at least right now, in the stage in their life where they can look at themselves and think like, oh yeah, like I do this, and maybe I need to make a change, or like being held accountable. Like, it kind of turned into a really long argument, and I was like, we're not friends anymore. This is not how I would want to interact with my friends. That's just one instance. And, you know, just being okay with the fact that sometimes people's paths, they're, you know, running together side by side, and then one person, you know, veers off because they're growing, or they're going in a different direction, and the other person maybe staying the same, or maybe just growing at a different rate. Like, those things are totally normal. There's different phases of life that you go through, and different people fit into those phases in different points of your life, and like, that is totally fine. So yeah, I'm just very like intentional with the people that I have in my life. I expect my friends to be able to tell me about myself, and I expect them to be people that I can say, hey, like, you did this and it bothered me, and it not become like a big thing, because I think that that's true like intimacy, when you can do that and you can understand each other better in any sort of relationship. You know, it even is kind of bad sometimes when I'm like, okay, like, I've told this person a lot, but like, they haven't told me anything, and I'll be like, hey, you know, like, if I'm doing anything wrong, like, please tell me. I want to make sure that like your needs are met as well as like the needs that I have. Yeah, just something to think about if you've ever, you know, be really aware of the way that you respond to things when people tell you stuff, and there is a right way to deliver stuff like that. So you kind of have to play both fields. Like, you know, you have to like present the criticism in a nice way. If you're gonna expect to receive it in a nice way, there can't be this like, you can't get triggered and stuff like that. You have to really be able to do that and like trust yourself with that. And that comes with practice. So that comes with like open and honest communication. It comes with not making assumptions about the other person, not holding anything back. Like, if you have something to say it, because if you don't, it could build resentment, and that's just never good. I've experienced that firsthand. It was in a different year. It was in a different little lifetime, a different revolution around the sun, but I did experience that before, and it's not fun. Speaking of communication, another thing that I learned a lot about this year was unrealistic expectations and the consequences of not communicating what your needs are, and just expecting people to be able to read your mind, and just know like how you want to be treated, and just expecting like this unicorn person to come in and like fulfill you and complete you. And it's just like, that's not a reality. That is, I feel like that's something that a lot of us grew up seeing, was like all these love stories and like these people that just compliment each other, and they meet and it's like love at first sight, and like everything's perfect and they just fit together like a glove. And that's just not the reality for basically all relationships, even friendships. You have to be able to communicate your needs to people. That kind of comes with believing like my needs are valid, you know? If you don't believe that your needs are valid, you're less likely to communicate them to somebody, because you're gonna like talk yourself out of it before you can even bring it up. But chances are that person's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know you were thinking that. We can't read each other's minds. And so it's not fair to be in a relationship with somebody or be in a friendship with somebody and expect that they're gonna do these things. Because if you have a belief or an expectation that somebody's going to do something and they don't do it, it's just going to set you up for disappointment. But again, like other people cannot read your minds. They don't know what's important to you. And so that's kind of what I learned a lot during this year in my friendships. It's kind of what I learned a lot about myself in relationships, is like, you know, I'm gonna tell this person what I need. If I don't get it, then they're just not able to give that to me. And like, that's okay. In my friendships, like, I'm lucky enough to have some friends who are willing to tell me like, hey, this is what I need from you to be connected to you. And that's really like important for me as an avoidant person in relationships. I'm like, I grew up so independent, even in high school, and like all of my friend groups, like I was just kind of a floater. Like I didn't really let anybody get close to me. And so like I just truly like do not know how to get close to some people, and I genuinely need them to tell me like what makes them feel loved and like what makes them feel valued, because I want to make them feel that way, but what makes me feel valued is not going to be the same as what makes them feel valued. And I haven't had enough practice with that even in my adult life. And so it really is important to me that they tell me those things. And obviously like I could be better at asking, but yeah, those are all just things that like have come up for me in the year of 27. I like to refer to it as like, I feel like my heart is like thawing out, because I used to just not really care. Like genuinely speaking, I used to just really not care about how I was showing up in other people's lives and if I was close to them or not. And like, I guess it really comes down to my self concept and like learning about myself and like liking myself and believing that I am like worthy. It sounds cheesy, but like believing that I am worthy of like good friendships and intimacy, emotional intimacy with friends and partners. It's been like, oh, okay, like now I actually do care about these people, and like I can feel it, you know. I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully someday I will be able to articulate it better and like speak about it in the past tense a little bit better, but for now it's still something that kind of like is hard for me. I also learned that setting unrealistic expectations that are impossible to meet for the people around you is 100% a defense mechanism, because it's never going to happen, and part of you knows that, and so therefore it's like a safe thing. It's like everyone's only just gonna let me down because I have these high expectations, and so there's no point in like taking a risk because I know it's not gonna happen, because it's not, because you've set these super high and unrealistic expectations. It just keeps you in the same place. It keeps you repeating the same patterns over and over and over again. And I've really learned that like any relationship is like a two-way street. Like you have to communicate with each other. You have to talk about like what are your needs? These are my needs. Can we help each other out here? And yeah, that's just like the biggest thing. So being able to do that and like really lower my walls lately has been like really big. All right, and the thing that I have learned most recently kind of blew my mind, and I was like, oh my gosh, I totally do that. And it was, sometimes avoidant people like me in my friendships will kind of like destroy someone's bid for connection. And I've done this. I did this literally just the other day because I'm going through something right now, and one of my friends was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like it was over text, like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this, you know, very genuine and very sincere. And like, instead of being like, oh, thank you, like, thank you for the support, my knee-jerk reaction was, sorry, my throat is like dry. My knee-jerk reaction was, I'm fine. Thanks, it's fine, I'm fine. It was to completely blow it off. Like, they know I'm going through something that's really difficult. I know it's really difficult because I'm the one feeling the feelings of it being really hard. And so this person, my friend, is just trying to like connect with me and like share a moment of like emotional intimacy with me, and I'm like putting a wall up, and I'm like, actually it's fine, but it's not fine. I'm not fine. And so me saying like, oh, I'm fine, it's whatever, was like me like slamming the door in her face when she's just trying to connect with me, and it just ruins that opportunity for connection and getting closer and sharing that moment. So I think like something that I can definitely work on there is just being sure that I am just letting people care about me. And it's really funny because like that's how I am with certain other people. I'm like, just let me care about you. Like, just stop, get your fucking walls down and just let me care about you. And I'm doing that to my friends, like literally all the time. So that was like a huge wake up call. I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I need to really be aware of that and just like practice letting them in. And like that's really the only way that you can change, honestly, and like, that you can heal from that is like exposure therapy, like just letting people be ushy and gushy with you. It's not an inconvenience to them. And I think that's where I was like, oh, like my feelings are going to be an inconvenience to them because I grew up where feelings were an inconvenience and they were uncomfortable. But in reality, feelings are how you connect with other people, like being vulnerable in those moments and like having those moments where you're down and you let other people care for you. That is how you build connections and get closer to people. Oh my gosh, girl, this video is getting long already. It's already at 30 minutes, at least on my like raw footage. Really quickly before I wrap up, I feel like I've been talking forever, but I really want to talk about the things that I'm going to be creating on this channel, just in case you want to stick around, want to subscribe. There's a lot of things I'm really interested in, but I'm just gonna like bullet point them really quick. So finding personal style and fashion, fitness, a balance between masculine and feminine energy, and again, I'll get into that more later on. Mindset and how changing your mindset can change your life, living slower and more intentionally, and also how I cope with having ADHD without being medicated. So if you're somebody who's returning, I still have not taken Adderall for my ADHD, and life has been fine. It could be a little bit better as far as just managing my symptoms go, but overall, I have some things that are helping out a lot with that I would love to share with you guys. And then yeah, just optimizing all the parts of my life so that I can feel fulfillment, and that's gonna be balancing again, like those masculine and feminine energies, which I guess they have nothing to do with gender, by the way. It's more so just like balancing that like hustle with the softness. I've been in hustle mode for pretty much my entire life, and I'm just like ready to get into the softness and experience just loving being a woman and being a young woman still for as long as I possibly can. So yeah, this marks my new era. I'm starting over. I'm really excited about the person that I'm going to become, and I'm so happy to be here sharing the journey with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way through, you are a trooper. Leave me your favorite emoji down in the comment section down below, and don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Now I gotta do the whole thumbnail thing. What should I do? I don't know. What says starting over at 27? Maybe like a